The Rocket Review is sponsored by Why Not Saloon.
We're so pleased to have on the show an incredible singer, songwriter, guitarist, and producer, Phillip Lammonds.
Hey, you got it, nailed it.
Just like Hammond's.
A lot like it, but there's an L.
But there's an L. I'll tell you what, it's so nice to have you on the show, Phillip.
Yeah, man.
You know, it's been a while back, but last time I saw you play live was at the Listening Room.
Oh, yeah.
And I was telling you this when you came here, Phillip, to where I don't know which I enjoyed more, your songs or your stories, and you were just cracking up the whole audience the entire time. They were eating out of the palm of your hand.
You know, it's funny when you think about that. I'm up there to play, and I'm just hiding it. You know, really, is all it is. It's just you just hide it, hide your your insecurities, I guess.
Right.
Just hope they're funny.
Well, I'll tell you what's not funny is your incredible new album that came out, Cowboy Things. And I was telling you, I was going through this album, Phillip, and you've got a catalog of 4,000 songs, but this is your debut album.
Yeah.
And you know, kind of a big deal, you know, with Curb Records and also with Lee Brice producing it.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing to think that anybody'd be interested in it. But Lee really kind of pinned me against the wall about it.
Right.
Yeah, he did.
And he wrote like a paragraph complimenting you on what a great songwriter you are. And you know, I got to brag on you too, Phillip, because I know you won't. But it's like when you have people like Darius Rucker on Love Is Love, you know, you've got, you know, Lee Brice involved, you've got Bill Murray, the comedian, involved in this.
Yeah.
Pam Tillis, you know.
Which is all of that, yeah.
And you had an Opry debut also.
Which was crazy that I'd never even bothered to, I never even bothered to let myself dream about that. I mean, I said, nah, you know, that's for other folks. And we get a phone call, and it's still one of the biggest highlights I'll ever have happen.
Well, especially to where Pam Tillis is introducing you on the Grand Ole Opry stage.
Yeah, and she's what an icon, you know, what just an incredible human and somebody, and the talent that she is. I mean, that's what scares me to death. It's just she's crazy, incredibly, you know, just everything that you'd ever imagine, and distilled down to one word: cool.
Right.
Right. It's just.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And she was the one that introduced you, and then also a part of this album. What I found so interesting listening to this album, and I was telling you before we came in studio, Phillip, to where this album to me is like, you know, if someone is wanting to learn the art of songwriting, which is certainly an art and a craft and one that you've mastered, to where this album is kind of like, could be a book on that. Because the lyrics, you paint pictures so well with every song. And I know on a song like Love Is Love that you have Darius Rucker on, you know, a lot of people passed up this song, and you got to do your album with Cowboy Things and do whatever songs you wanted. They let you do whatever you wanted, and you got to record it live in studio.
Yeah, so a lot of rules were broken. A lot of rules were broken. And that song, as you bring it up, that's Hannah Dasher and Tiffany Goss. Mm-hmm. We were on a retreat in... let me think where it was, Evans Mill, and that just started rolling off, and I think it was Hannah probably, you know, she's such a force of nature, and both of them are, frankly, but we just wrote that song in like no time, and it became this kind of anthem that is, if you listen to it close, it means a lot.
It does.
Yeah.
And it says a lot about things now, and certainly even the past, but you address them head on. And it seems like a really unifying, strong song, you know, to put out there into the world.
Well, I just don't think we have time for, you know, worrying about what we're doing wrong to each other. We need to figure out what we're doing right for each other. Mm-hmm. And that's where that song comes in. And I don't want to cry or anything, but, but it is something that means a lot.
It's powerful.
And people get it.
You know, and so many of the songs on here, though, you know, I was telling you, and I didn't know it until you told me about it, to where it has that live feel and that live sound because you brought in your friends in studio and recorded the whole album over like a day or so.
Exactly right. Yeah. You know, we were ready, and those guys are pros, you know,
Right.
and Lee, you know, was so open to everything, but he had his plan, and he decided that he wanted to go that way too. And he was really excited because nobody does that in Nashville much.
No.
You know, so.
No, and a lot of times, I mean, and as you and I talk too, you know, there are so many incredible session musicians here, so many ringers.
It's the best.
You know,
It's
the
the
best, period.
World's best.
And, you know, and Lee was ready to bring those in for you, and you're like going, you know, I got some friends.
At one level, I was a little intimidated by that, but, you know, because I do know those guys, because I do demo sessions.
Right.
And I just thought maybe, you know, training wheels would be the way to do this thing. And it turns out it's not that way, but and those guys really handled me like with kid gloves and really nailed it.
Well, and the way you did it too, Philip, to where you went through and went through the song one time, they would write out their charts or notes, you said have a meeting, next thing you know, you're recording it.
Well, yeah, it's downbeat. It was just like that all the way through. And a lot of things don't happen like that here. So,
not at all.
That's right.
Well, and also, you know, I thought it was so interesting, Bill Murray, not typically known for his songwriting or musical angles, and so once again, a part of your album and a friend of yours.
Well, you know, and that's all true. But, you know, Bill is such a faceted person. He's got a lot going on, and he also has such a big heart.
Yeah.
And this happened, Love is Love, actually, I had played it live at a show in Charleston that he typically attends for the Blue Dogs, my old band, their annual show. And they asked me to do a couple songs, and I did. And I walked backstage, and he's standing there. And he said, "Do you think we could write a song?"
Wow.
I said, "Yeah, you're Bill Murray, and I know we can write a song." And the next day, we kind of nodded around and figured out how to, you know, what we were going to do.
Yeah.
We did it and went to his hamburger place and joked around with the people in there, and he stole French fries off of people's, you know, plates and this, that, and the other. And I walk into a place where we were writing, and it had one line. I'll just say this: it had one line on this manila folder that was his. Apparently, his entire career was in this manila folder, and that was sitting on the coffee table. And it had this one statement. It said, "There's no explanation, easy way out, or a clue. I'm overcome with consumption, like I'm broke down with the flu." He was making coffee or something in another room, and I said, "I don't care what we write, this is the opening line." And he actually had the idea of Supposed to Fall in Love. And I've had that idea over time, and I didn't get anybody interested in it.
Such a great song.
And it turned out to be such a simple, easy thing to say, and it's a wedding anthem, you know.
Well, I think also, you know, another one of my favorite songs, which I have many favorite songs on Cowboy Things with your full album, but the one with taking the quote from your dad, you know, is so powerful to me, and I know that was, you know, with Lee Brice also.
Yeah.
You know, and being able to relate with that with my father.
Well, in this business particularly, you know, he was sure that, you know, this is on his deathbed. We're talking, and he said, "You know, I was just afraid of you dragging all those kids to, your babies to Nashville and trying to just uproot everything." And he said, "I was afraid of that." He said, "Now," he said, I got to tell you, I apologize, because you're the only one I know that's getting paid to do what you'd pay to do, you know." And
what a line.
bingo, you know.
Just I mean, how amazing. And also, you know, sharing that moment with your father, you know, and
yeah.
You know, I mean, how powerful. And you know, and you and I were talking too, you know, once again, you being an instant success, having your debut album now, to where, you know, you used to, you know, sell boats, had a real estate business, took people out fishing, and on the side were doing the songwriting. And then your friends kept urging you to come to Nashville, but also the Paul Kraft moment, you know, that kind of changed your life.
Well, Paul did, and Sean Camp, he was involved, and Paul had. I went to a bluegrass festival, Graves Mountain, and the Seldom Scene had asked me to come as friends, and they were, kind of attached to the Blue Dogs a little bit, and so I went to the festival, and when I drove up, I saw this guy in the creek next to the cabin we were going to, and he was in a pork pie hat and one of those Madras shirts, and just really put together, and slinging this fly rod around, and I just knew he was going to take an ear off at any section, and he's in there, and I kind of looked, and I keep a fly rod in the truck, so I'm try to
sometimes 4 or 5.
Yeah, right, got it right now, but he looks up at me, and I said, "Are you Paul Kraft?" He said, "Well, yes." And I said, "Well, I'm Phillip Lammonds." He says, "Do you know anything about fly fishing?" And I said, "Turns out I might." We got him in there, and he saved one ear, and we got him in the table. And then he took me in and started talking to me about songs, and we were introduced right there.
Right.
And then took me to different places and took me everywhere. And then invited me to his home for a long, long, long time. And there's just so many stories embedded in that. But it was proof that genius is pretty important. And it's also, he knows when to turn it off. And that's what I think Hope songwriting is, really.
Well, and I've got to brag on you too, Phillip, to where you've had, your songs recorded by, Hootie and the Blowfish, by Kip Moore, by Josh Turner. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
A bunch of, top level artists have recorded your songs. Now you're doing your own, and you've been releasing singles also.
Yeah.
In your spare time.
Yep. Just kind of putting something out every now and then.
And already working on possibly a new album, for 2025.
Well, it took me a minute. I was so enamored for so many years when I was not here in Nashville. I wanted to be in Nashville and actually be one of the people.
Right.
The songwriter. And for somebody to call me that was just manna from heaven. And I just really couldn't ever think past that. And I thought, this is what you do. This is the gig. This is the thing. Those guys that can wear the pants and have the creases in them and all that. They're the guys that deal with this and take these songs and run with them. And I guess got to keep it coming,
Right.
And then it hit me. Somebody said, you might want to put a record. And that's back to Lee Brice. He kind of forced me into it.
And also, he shared a nice 1939 J35 with you that ended up all over the album. Gorgeous guitar. And that was another thing, too. I've got to hand it to you,
He
Phil.
may be embarrassed by me telling him that, but that's...
Well,
that
but
is
the list of guitars and instruments that you used on this album and the mandolin,
Yeah.
it was like an episode of the show Nashville. It was like looking at your you've got a few nice guitars.
Yeah. I just feel like life's just short enough.
Right.
Or it's
And,
just
you,
not,
and you use them.
Yeah,
and you
I do
write
use
songs
them.
with them.
Yeah, I write songs on everything I own. And there's a piano in there that's out of tune that I write songs on. And I'm not a piano player, mind you, not a big piano player.
Oh my goodness! Well, I want to make sure for our viewers, Cowboy Things. It's such a great album, and I want to make sure I know it's
thanks.
available on CD, vinyl, and on all digital platforms. And you've got 4 singles rolling out,
Yep.
more songs coming out all the time. For your website, for Instagram, and everything else, where do our viewers need to go? And also with all the shows you've got coming up, because you're going to be at a lot of songwriter festivals.
Well, songwriter festivals, and I'm doing some one-off shows and that kind of thing, but it's at philliplammonds.com, and I think that covers them all.
It does.
It does.
And it's a great website, because I had a great time on the website. I mean, it's just,
I need to go back and look at that website.
There's a lot of fun pictures with you and your dog, too.
Well, Muddy is a hero of a lot of people.
Yeah.
Muddy's a little celebrity.
Muddy is very photogenic.
He is, and of course, Ruby has slipped into the picture lately. The big Tasmanian Beagle, as we call her.
Right.
Bad little bad girl.
I think the only thing you need to do is maybe add in more pictures with you and guitars, because that's always good.
I like to catch some fish,
which would not be bad either.
Yeah, but
you know, in your spare time though, when you get to shut it down.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to shoot something or catch it, but I'm a little weird about putting dead stuff on them. Just because I don't want anybody to know where I'm fishing.
Right. You gotta keep your secrets.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, it's just like when you got a great song idea, you got to keep it.
And that's a good note, because I don't. I always, the next person walks in the room, like, probably going to get that song.
Wow.
I just feel like we all have them, and they were gifts. And you just. I told somebody one day, I said, all we're doing is catching them like a fish.
Right.
You know?
Well, I'll tell you what, you've caught a great album. And
thank you.
Cowboy Things is out now. There's so many incredible singles. I recommend, if you listen via digital, download the entire album. There's more singles coming out from Phillip also. Get the vinyl, get the CD, go see him play live. I'm telling you what,
yes.
The stories, the music, the guitar playing, this whole album, if you're a songwriter, if you're thinking about songwriting, if you want to, up your game some, check out what Phillip is doing, and you're going to enjoy this album as much as I have. And it's great to finally have you on the show.
Man, thank you.
Congratulations,
Appreciate
Phillip.
Thank you for having me.
And check out Cowboy Things.
The Rocket Review is sponsored by Why Not Saloon.